Hey everybody, Bobby Medina here. Hope you guys are doing great. We got a special interview, something really exciting, working today with some of the members of the Tower of Power horn sections. And to help me out is my good friend here, my cohort, the great Paul Barron.
Hi, everybody. And I'd like to introduce our friend Adolfo Acosta. Adolfo was born and raised in Santa Barbara, California, and then went on in high school to study with Bobby Shue, and then the 1 O'Clock Band at North Texas. Lead player out there, and while he was there, he was studying with Jay Saunders. And then after that, got a chance to join Maynard's band, Maynard Ferguson, and tour for 2 years with Maynard. And then in the summer of 2000, he was asked to join Tower of Power. And Adolfo is also a Yamaha artist and clinician. And Bobby, back to you.
All right. So my buddy here, Sal Cracchiolo, I've known him for many years. And there's a lot of things I could tell you about him, but we're in public right now, so I can't divulge that kind of information. But needless to say, Sal was with Poncho Sanchez for many years. He's recorded with everybody. I mean, Dizzy Gillespie, Freddie Hubbard, Cal Jader, Chick Corea, Tito Puente, Celia Cruz. He's toured with Tom Jones and Brian Setzer. He's part of the Clayton Hamilton Orchestra. He's a fellow Los Angelino like me. I think he's from Long Beach originally. He's got an incredible CD out called Fly with his wife Melanie on vocals. It was nominated for a Latin Grammy. And so we want to welcome the great Sal Cracchiolo with us here today.
Thank you very much, Bobby. I'm good. How are you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing good. Well, I want to keep this moving along, so I thought I would throw out a question, and I'll start with you, Sal, since we share the same birth date. A lot of people don't know that, but we usually call each other on our birthdays and say hi, no matter where we're at in the world. But why don't you let us? How did you get started playing trumpet in the first place, Sal?
Well, I actually came from a musical family. And my father made a living teaching accordion and piano, and my mother actually played second trombone in the Detroit Women's Symphony, and she was my first trumpet teacher. And so I was just finished 7th grade and came home and getting ready to start summer school, and my mom said, "Oh, you're going to take a wood shop again this summer?" And I said, "No, I want to play in the band, and I want to take music appreciation." Mr. Thenis, great guy. And he goes, "Really? Well, what are you going to play?" I said, "Well, I knew there was a trumpet in the closet." I said, "I want to play trumpet." She goes, "Go get it." And she set my embouchure, and we had a box 7C. And she goes, "This is C, this is D, E, F, G." And, and I started, actually, when I was 4 years old, my parents threw me on the piano. And so I actually learned how to read music and solfeggio before the alphabet. And the piano didn't stick, the accordion really didn't stick. In the 3rd grade, I started playing violin. Didn't do anything for me. But I remember in the band at elementary school, there was these 2 kids in the 6th grade, and they played trumpet. God awful. But I thought that was the coolest sounding instrument in the world. And so then I played the drums for a minute. And then going into the 8th grade, I started trumpet. And so my mom said, "Well, let me get you lessons." And being in Long Beach, they had the Long Beach Municipal Band, where Herbert L. Clark used to be a musical director there. And the band's still going on, well, in the virus. Anyway, my parents always played music in the house and took us to concerts. And I'd hear the Long Beach Municipal Band, and they said, asked the lead trumpet player, "Would you teach my son?" He goes, "Oh, I have too many students. I don't have time. But Norton Maltz, my second trumpet player, he teaches and he's very good. So I studied with him for about 6 months. And one day he said, "Is your mom out in the car reading?" She would drive me out Saturdays for my lessons every Saturday. And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Go get her. I got to talk to her." And I thought, "Uh-oh, I'm in trouble." So when I got my mom, and she goes, "What'd you do? What happened?" I don't know. And she came in and goes, "Mr. Maltz, what's going on?" He says, "Cracchiolo, I cannot teach your son anymore." She goes, "I don't know why. All he does is practice that trumpet all day long." He goes, "Well, that's the problem. He needs a better teacher. And I've got 2 guys in mind." And and he told us the names. I was, "Well, who should I go with?" And one guy was real close in Norwalk, and the other guy lived down in Irvine. He said, "Well, they're both phenomenal. It's a toss-up, whoever you want to go to." And so we went with the guy that was closer. But the guy that lived down in Irvine was Rafael Mendez.
Oh, wow.
So I almost studied with Rafael. And we went with the second choice, or the first choice, which was James Stamp. So I studied with Jimmy Stamp for 3 years and really gave me a real strong foundation with the buzzing in the air and going into classical and the Charlier book. And boy, I really, it was what a gift to study with that guy. And then I went on to other teachers. I had like this 3-year cycle. And then it was like Tom Holden that was a disciple of Pappy Mitchell, that method. And then I went with Claude Gordon. And then I went with Don Ferrara, a jazz player. And then I went with Bobby Shue. And here I am.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, that's when I studied with Stamp when I was at the end of my high school in my senior year and in college. And I would study at the school mostly over at Cal State Fullerton, but I did go over to his house. And I don't remember, was he in Downey? It was so long ago.
It was Whittier.
Whittier, that's right. Yeah, he was in Whittier. So yeah, I remember that. Now, how about you, Adolfo? How'd you get started on playing trumpet?
Well, it was 4th grade orchestra, and I picked the trumpet because I liked the way it looked, and I had a neighbor who played it, and I had a really hard time. I almost quit, so I thanked Mrs. Ochi for convincing me not to quit, and it was something fun. I mean, I could take it or leave it, it wasn't that, but it was still kind of fun. When I was in 7th grade, I heard the jazz band. I didn't even know what a jazz band was or that the school had one, even though I rehearsed an hour after the jazz band. I mean, they like hid everything away. You didn't even know. So I wanted to play in that band and had to wait. That changed my life here in that band. And then, so I got to play in the jazz band in 8th grade. And then in high school, I started studying with a guy named Brian Piercy. He was my first trumpet teacher in Santa Barbara. And he was teaching for a little while. I took about 3 or 4 lessons, and then he stopped teaching or something. And then I started taking lessons from Jeff Elliott, and he had a big impact on me. Loved the way he played and the way he sounded. He taught me like John Kleinman type stuff because he was a John Kleinman student. So I did lots of long tones back in the day. So and lots of soft playing. And then after high school, I went to City College and played in different types of ensembles, everything they had actually, And I started taking lessons with Bobby Shue, and then that was a whole new different thing too. It was great. And then I went to North Texas and luckily got on Maynard's band, and then started playing with Tower in 2000, and then they hired me around, I don't know, 2001 maybe, I'm not sure, something like that. That's it. I'm still here almost 20 years later. So
wow, that's cool. It's amazing how fast time flies too. It's ridiculous. How about you, Paul? You want to throw something out?
I sure do. Well, first of all, I want to tell you guys that my wife is like the biggest fan ever of Tower Power. And in fact, when we first got together, excuse me, and then she moved in with me up in Vancouver, Canada, I put on a record, and it was Tower. And then she's dancing, and she knew every horn lick, every note. of the Barry, and then the trumpets, and she could sing it all. And I'm going, wow, how do you know this stuff? She goes, I've been dancing and going to see these guys since like the late '70s when I was still a teenager, in the dance club up in I think Parker's in Seattle. Anyway, so I just wanted to do a little shout out to my wife, and she's like your biggest fan. So
He's the keeper.
So I have a question for both of you guys, and actually this comes from my wife as well. What's the process when you guys are working on a new song? Is it like Doc and Mimi that write the tunes, and then you guys arrange the horns? What's the process there? Can you share with us that?
Go ahead.
Adolfo, how about you start? Oh, Sal, you start then. Sal, go ahead.
Well, they, Mimi writes the tunes and the melody and the rhythm, and we have the guy who really studied Greg Adams, great, the sound of the horns arrangement. Dave Eskridge, he's in Texas, and he's an excellent arranger. And he gets together with Mimi, and they listen to the vocals, the scratch tracks, and so they figure out the horn parts. And then the thing also, the Dolphins got more experience after 20 years, but they just tweak it, just keep tweaking it and working it and molding it, and there you go.
Yeah.
So, could you give us an example of a tune that you guys worked on in that way, where you were tweaking and so on as you went?
Yeah, usually when we learn a tune, it's something that has already been recorded by us, or by a band, an incarnation of the band previous years. But how it usually happens is the rhythm section, Amelia will teach the rhythm section the parts, or they'll learn them on their own, and then Amelia will rehearse the rhythm section, or they'll rehearse themselves. And then once they get it kind of, where it's feeling good, then we'll start running the horn parts, which nowadays are written out. We all have our parts written out, and we'll just, run a section of it, and then rehearse that section. And then depending on how involved the song is, we might be able to run the whole thing, but sometimes if it's really involved, we'll just go piece by piece by piece. And eventually we rehearse during sound checks most of the time, because we all live far apart. So then after a certain amount of sound checks, we might have the, we can run the whole tune from beginning to end. And we just kind of piece it together like that. I think that's right, Sal, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, what I've always wondered, because everybody's a little bit different, the way we process things, when you guys go personally, like say you have music, how do you guys, each one of you, memorize a piece of music, memorize your parts? What's your process, Sal, for that?
I just, it's repetition. When I got into the band, which, by the way, Adolfo, this is my 9-year anniversary with the band. My official was the band's anniversary, August 13th, but I started playing on the band, and it was up in Santa Cruz. And that 9 years has gone by so quick. But I got the music, and Adolfo got with me, and he was great, very giving and generous. And there was a set. Mimi said, okay, this is the set you're going to learn. And Adolfo got with me and really helped me with the band. And it was great because for a while, I think 2 years, he got to, we all studied Mick Gillette, but he got to stand next to Mick Gillette, I believe, for 2 years.
About a year.
Oh, okay. But I studied Mick's playing, and Adolfo said, well, this is how Mick would do it, and this is what we do. And man, he was like, great. So for 2 days, I just slept and ate and breathed the book. And then I went up and did the first gig was February 25th, 2011. I subbed on the band, just one gig up in Vancouver, Canada. And then I go, oh, this is great. You know, it's a bucket list. It'll probably never happen again, but man, what a memory. And, you know, all of a sudden I got called to sub starting in June 3rd. And June 2nd, I sat in with the band at the Greek Theater. And afterwards, we got in the bus and went up to Santa Cruz. And it was like, here I am.
Wow, it's cool. And arguably, this is like, you know, one of the best, you know, if not the best horn band, pop band, you know, of all times. And certainly the horn section is up there with anybody, you know, in any of its incarnations. You know, they've had a lot of players, a lot of great players have come through this band, and I've seen a number of them, but you guys are, I don't know, you guys have a kind of chemistry. I think you and Adolfo on stage, you know, you really complement each other really well. You know, last time I saw you when you were out here, it was really special. And not only that, it's like, you know, like I've taken my son, you know, my son's a sax player, but we've taken him to some of the horn clinics, and that's been really cool. Just, you know, hearing what you guys have to say and, you know, passing on information. So it's really important. I think that's a great part of what you guys do.
So I'm curious, do you guys pass any of the lead stuff around, like any given night? I know, having been on the road and hope to be again once this COVID thing opens up, but you know, there are nights where it just doesn't feel as good. Have you guys been able to just shuffle the parts around, or do you kind of stick with what you do? Adolfo?
No, Emilio wants us to play our parts, you know. He doesn't really want us switching around, you know. Yeah, especially if there's a sub coming in, you know. He says, play your part, don't, you know. So, and you know, once you start personally, and other people might feel the same way too, is once we start switching parts around, it's easy to forget the next part that's coming because everything's memorized, you know.
Sure.
Yeah, I can understand that. That's one thing I was thinking too. So what are some of the challenges you have, you know, being on the road with this playing wise? I mean, it is a demanding book. You guys usually have a grueling schedule. I mean, you have a lot of hit after hit after hit, night after night, you know. So how do you get through that? Let's start with Sal.
Well, Aspirin is a very good friend of mine. You know, after the gig, you know, the chops are puffy, and I'll have you know, usually an aspirin or two, and you know, on the road, and we're on the road 200 plus days a year, you know, so you have everything revolves around the 90-minute show, or sometimes 100 minutes, and you just lay the whole day. Everything you sleep as much as you can. I try and walk, you know, an hour, about 3 miles a day, and eat, and just everything is like you just rest and you warm up nice and gentle, you know, usually with a mute in the room, and just like get the stiffness out of your face and just get everything working and the air flowing, and just warm up nice and easy. And when you warm up, personally, when I warm up, it's like I got to save everything. I got to go on to the gig with a full tank of gas. And so it's like cooking pasta. You know, you got the sauce ready and you got the cheese on the side. So you get the water boiling. And as soon as it starts to boil, you know, you turn the heat down low and you put the lid on it, and now you warmed up, but you're just ready to play. So all of a sudden it's time for the show. Put on the flame all the way up and just throw the pasta in and start cooking.
Mm-hmm.
I
How
like
about
that
you,
analogy.
Adolfo? And
You know
how
what?
about you?
Very, very, very similar, you know. I mean, and like all, you know, there's been some other trumpet players I've played with in the band who have total different ways of going about it, but I'm really close to the way Sal does it, you know. And just being, we got to be warmed up for sound check because the sound guys want to hear what we're going to do during the show. You know, we got to give them what we play like during the sound check. And man, that first book, I mean, Sal's got E's for date. It's like E, 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 F, you know. So yeah, so and I go up to like maybe high C or something, but I got to be warmed up for the sound check, and that's, you know, kind of I start kind of wanting to spit out some harder notes by that time. So, you know, but I'm pacing myself. Yeah, most of the time it's warming up easily, and then kind of punching in a little bit at sound check during those times where we have to, and then resting, and then warming up a little, just the right amount before the gig, you know. And warming up is a kind of a hard thing, finding a place to warm up, because there isn't a whole lot of space for us sometimes, and people don't want to hear trumpets, you know. So
I know it.
it's
So
tricky.
do you like, you know, when I go out on a tour or something like that, I have a best brass practice mute. I think Paul gave it to me many years ago. I still use that thing, and it's nice, you know, to work in the hotel with. You know, it does change things up a little bit, but if I don't overdo it, for me that kind of works. But do you guys do this, use a similar kind of thing, or not? You don't like to use mutes at all, Sal?
I have a best brass mute. I've got the black plastic one, and you know what? People still complain. You're playing like pianissimo. What I want to do, I just want to get the lip vibrating and get the air flowing, and just, you know, and I have a Jimmy Stamp exercise that takes maybe at the very top 20 minutes, and that's nice and relaxed, and, you know, resting as much as I play. I just take it up to a high G because that's what the book calls for. And just, you know, just get everything just feeling good.
So, you know, like from my experience, you know, years ago when I studied with Stamp, I mean, I was way into the mouthpiece and the lip buzzing and all of that thing. And then I studied with Bobby Shu, you know, for some time also, and he kind of got me in a different mentality. And for me now, I don't really buzz the mouthpiece anymore. I know there's a lot of people that love to do it. There's people that say it has no place in it. Once in a while, I'll pull it out if I need to get this thing vibrating and it's not working for some reason. But do you guys buzz at all, or do you just play without buzzing on the mouthpiece, Sal?
You know what? Bobby Shu told me that when you buzz with your chops and also with a mouthpiece, it has to be so precise on the pitch. He said that 20 minutes with a mouthpiece or free buzzing is the equivalent of practicing an hour. So yeah, it's like, it keeps your chops there. And, you know, and back to chops is like, oh, I got to tell you first though, Adolfo on that second trumpet book, that book is a bear, you know? I mean, that second trumpet chair is harder than the lead trumpet chair on Tom Jones's band, you know? I mean, so that's, you know, it's nonstop workout. And I learned a lot from Adolfo about the phrasing. And I would actually, you know, it took me, honestly, about a year before I really settled into the gig and I felt confident and strong. But I used to listen to Adolfo for phrasing and everything. I put my own little, you know, thing on it. But it was really Adolfo. I listened because he was, you know, he's a great lead player, actually, you know, and he's a wonderful jazz player. And the most important thing of any musician, he's musical, you know, and he listens. So, I mean, I still listen to Adolfo, you know, when I play, because he knows the style. He's been there for like 20 years now. So, yeah, it's like a joy really to stand next to Adolfo, you know, and I mean, on and off the bandstand, he's just a beautiful human being. Adolfo, can I borrow $5?
You know, you almost said that right. We got to work on one of those parts there.
So Adolfo, when you came to the band, who was the other trumpet player, and is that what you emulated as far as your style?
Mike Bogart was playing first trumpet, and we just kind of locked in. I don't know. I mean, I was just listening to the board tapes and the original recordings and studying those, and then Bogey and I would play with the band. And I don't know, I was scared a lot of the time, so it was. The more I got into it, though, the more I really got into listening to the band and realized how different the recordings sounded than how I thought they sounded in the past. Before I thought, oh yeah, I've played What Is Hip, and I played Tower. I played, You're Still a Young Man a bunch of times, and I thought I knew how it went. So I started playing with the band, and thinking, whoa, this is way different, And you hear the recordings, and you're like, oh, it's way different. So
How was it different?
There's just way more going on than I thought I knew that was going on previously.
You're talking about the total ensemble, not just like the horn parts, right?
The total ensemble, and how things fit time-wise, and just subtle little things, like the way they would cut off and stuff, just really subtle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's an amazing group. I saw, and I don't remember if you were on the band when I saw, but Mike Bogart was on the band, and he actually played trombone, I think, too, on the band. But he was impressive also, just another magnificent player on that group that's been through that band,
Yeah, it's a hard book, man. I mean, the second book is a bear, but the first trumpet book is probably more like a Bigfoot, Very a Yeti.
Yeah. So are you a mouthpiece buzzing guy at all, Adolfo, or do you just?
You know what? I studied with Bob for so long. Part of my daily routine is doing some and warm ups. It's doing lip fluttering, trying to center a buzz, do some free buzzing, and then doing some mouthpiece buzzing. But I don't do a whole lot at one time. It's always in smaller, sessions. It's kind of like my warming up, preparation,
right,
to go farther into something else. So.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I am personally. I know that a lot of people, I mean, like I even saw a thing, I don't know if it was Eric Mirashiro, I think he said, he's like, they were talking about pedal, was either pedal tones or buzzing. I think it was pedal tones, yeah. Pedal tones, and he was saying, this is like, those are like poison to me. He said they really, so it's interesting just from the standpoint of people and how each person plays, we're all a little bit different, and how you have to really take time to experiment throughout your life, because you have these aha, or as Bobby Shue used to say, these oh shit moments, it's like, oh God, now I understand that, and it takes you to the next little level of understanding, for yourself. So that's cool. So tell us about your association with Yamaha instruments. Sal, why don't you start?
Well, I started studying with Bobby Shue in '85, and because I was at a quandary, and I needed some real direction, and I had the honor of playing in a Pasadena City College band under Gary Foster. And Gary was such a giving person. And one night I said, Gary, I need to, talk to you about direction in my life. And he said, well, come over to the house, And he was very giving, and it was great because he goes, have you ever had Spanish cognac, Randy? I said, no. And he put out this excellent little bottle. We sat there, and he put on the best, like Charlie Parker and Phil Woods and Chet Baker and Lenny Tristano and Bach. And he goes, I love this certain piece with Bach. And he goes, well, what do you need? I go, I don't know what to do. And he goes, Sal, you have to find a mentor. And if it's you have to figure out what you want to do. And if anything, transcribe all those solos and just study that way he played lead. And so I loved Bobby Shue. And I mean, here he is, an unbelievable jazz player that plays the shit out of lead trumpet, and so musical. And I said, well, I love jazz so much, but I want to eat. So I better learn how to play lead so I can, have a couple hats to wear. And so I called up Bobby and I said, Mr. Shu, my name's Sal Cracchiolo, and I'd like to take trumpet lessons with you. He goes, I never heard of you, and I'm really busy. I don't have time for any students. I got some of the best guys in the world coming to me and studying with me. And, I don't have time. I said, well, make time. I said, I go, you have to give me one lesson. He goes, F you. He goes,
Really?
I don't have to do anything. And I said, give me one trumpet lesson. And at the end of that trumpet lesson, if you never want to see me again, I guarantee you will never see me. And I heard him with all these big bands in LA. And he goes, what are you doing tomorrow at 4 o'clock? I said, how much? And what's the address? And I showed up, and we just he opened up the door, and it was he looked at me and I looked at him, and we both kind of grinned, and it was like I had known him in another life or something. It was so warm. And he came and he goes, what do you want to learn from me? And I said, well, I want to learn jazz. I want to learn how to play lead. I want to get a better high chops. And he goes, all right. You want a beer? I need a beer. I said, yeah. And so then he just gave me a 2-hour lesson, and it went by like 10 minutes. And that was it. And I studied with Bobby for about 3 years, seriously. And he goes, well, come back. You don't have to come back every week. Come back when you think you got this, in a month or 2 weeks, or if you don't want to come back, you don't have to. But you want to stay for dinner? I said, yeah. And he's been, very giving. He gives the secrets away. He lets you know how to become better, in every way.
Yeah, he never holds anything back, when it applies to you. It's one of the things I love about him. And, I think he can come off as being a little gruff, but man, when you know him, he is a wonderful person. I would go down to his place down in Van Nuys back in those days. And, I'd show up at 2 o'clock from my lesson, and it'd be like 6:30, and we'd be done, it would be that long. It was crazy. How about you, Adolfo? What was your experience with him like?
Well, I got his phone number from the late Bob Ontiveros, who used to live in LA. He was a trumpet player, played lots of salsa bands, and he worked at Valley Music in the 80s. And he moved back to Santa Barbara, and he gave me Bobby's number because he had told me about Bobby. And I said, well, do you have his phone number? And he gave me his number, and I just simply called up Bobby, thinking, I'm going to call this star, am I going to get a lesson? And yeah, it was really easy. I just called him up, and we set up the lesson really easily. And I took a train out there, an Amtrak. I didn't have a car, and, or right out there. So I took an Amtrak from Santa Barbara to Van Nuys. And I walked to his house, and there's Lisa. She was doing some painting, and she's asking me all these really difficult questions, basic questions like, hey, so what do you want to learn? And I'm like, shoot, I should really know that if I'm going to take a lesson.
Yeah, I know.
And so I met Bobby, and I took my first lesson, and it was, it was just troubleshooting, and lots of I just felt like, kind of high after the whole experience of just getting all this information that's going to kind of solve a bunch of problems that I was having, and that's about it. The Sal story is a lot more fun, actually. So I don't have that kind of stories.
Well, Sal, getting back to this, because we started off we were talking about your association with Yamaha. So let's, if you can encapsulate that for us, tell us about your instruments and the gear you guys are using on the band.
Well, to finish the story, I got sidetracked, but I would go in there and I was playing another brand of trumpet, and I was pretty happy with it. But man, I'm standing next to Bobby, and the horn sounds so great. And I know it wasn't just, it was really him. But I said, "Can I try your trumpet?" And he goes, "Sure," And boy, as soon as I tried it, it just responded so quick and had such a beautiful sound. I said, I want one of these, you know. It was a 6310 Yamaha. And so, and I was playing, I was playing with Poncho. And I said, man, I want, you know, I want to get one of these horns for the album. And it was 85 and it was El Conguero. And I just, you know, I played, the horn was just superior to what I was playing. It was easier to play, great sound, and it responded. And it was like, my old horn was like driving a big Oldsmobile down the road. It was very comfortable and, you know, kind of, you know, it didn't really respond. Where all of a sudden I was in a Porsche that just like, it accelerated and turned and like, it was just a better horn. And then all of a sudden Bobby recommended me, I guess, and I got a partial endorsement from Yamaha. So I've been playing Yamaha horns since 85. And you know what? I try my friends' horns. I go to NAMM. I make the rounds. I got my mouthpiece. I try all the horns. And I don't, you know, now they give us horns, but I don't play Yamaha because it's, you know, I get a free horn. At this point, Adolfo and I, we can afford any horn we want, anything. But you want something that's, you know, makes your job easier. If you're a plumber, you know, you don't want a little garden trowel to dig a trench. You want a real shovel, you know. You want the right tool for the instrument. And the instrument, like I said, has a great sound. It responds, and it makes my job and life easier. We all know, you know, trumpets were like slaves to this piece of metal. But it's what a beautiful sounding instrument. And as we all know, it's like, you know, we will always have to practice, you know, keep our chops up and try to continuously grow chop-wise and musically, you know.
Absolutely. So do you still play on the 6310 or have you switched to a newer model?
Well, I've gone through about 4 different models, I believe. And now I'm playing the brand new, I think it came out last year, the Bobby Shoe 8310Z, you know, and so I'm playing like, and I was really fortunate. You know, Yamaha approached me, Bob Malone said, hey man, we really want you to play this new horn. And, you know, we'll give you one. Would you like to try it? I said, yeah. And he goes, well, actually, I'm going to go out to Bobby's this next week, and we're going to tweak some horns, and you can have one of those. And they were the prototypes. And so, and like Bobby was going to like tweak out the first 10 prototypes. And he goes, so you want one of those horns? I said, have Bobby pick me out a horn, and I'll take that one. And Bobby picked me out a horn, and that's what I'm playing now. And I love it.
Wow. How about you, Adolfo?
I'm still playing an 8310Z that, well, I'm right now at home, since I've been home since March, I'm playing an 8310Z that I got when they came out, like in the 2003, 2004. I'm not really sure what the year is. But, I mean, I was on the road, I'm playing, and what I was playing is an 8310Z with a Miyashiro bell. It's a Frankenstein horn. But it's on the truck with the equipment. It was going to meet us on the East Coast, so I'm playing my 8310Z. So okay. I haven't switched to the new one yet. I kind of play my horns till they wear out. So.
How about you, Paul? What are you going to throw out here? We're kind of rounding the bend here. So.
Oh, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, you probably wanted to wrap it up, but do you, for the Tower of Power fans that are itching to come and see you guys again, do you have a start back date or anything on the horizon at this point?
I don't know. Not that I know of. I don't know yet. I don't know. Do you know anything, Sal?
Well, it's all in limbo. You know, it's like, you know, it's this thing's it's real. Adolfo and I know 3 people associated with the band that had their folks in an old age home, and they all got the virus and died. And a buddy of mine, an acquaintance of mine over here in Norwalk, I've known for over 40 years, big, strong Chicano biker guy, he got the virus at 72 and he just died. So this ain't no joke. So whenever it's safe, let me tell you, I know all the guys in the band are like itching to play, or it's like I like to say, we're horny to play.
Well, we look forward to seeing you, man, when you guys come up through Seattle. I know it's usually just a hit and run, but one of these days, I'd love to get together with you guys when you get up this way and hang out and of course watch you perform. It's always a joy. And I want to say thanks to Paul for being here and helping out, and to you guys for giving us some time and sharing your thoughts. It's wonderful to see you guys, and thanks so much for being part of this. We really, really appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for having us.
Thank you. Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Cheers. Well, best of luck to you, and we'll look forward to seeing you soon. Okay, guys, take good care.
Okay. Stay safe.
Thank you.